Hi, I'm Jeff Bean. Welcome to Customer Experience Leadership in Turbulent Times. It's a different time now, and people are thinking about how their family's doing, how their friends are doing, and certainly how their customers are doing. And most of the leaders, you and I, we want to assure our friends, family, and customers with words and actions at this time. And it's really important to be genuine, particularly in times of such turbulence as we're going through now. So I think the best thing to do is start thinking about how you can give guidance, and probably one of the most important things to do is give context, especially during a tremendous time of change, and that's what we're going through right now. The changes could occur hourly, they could occur daily, and what this means is we're obviously in a very fluid situation, but this also means that the communications need to be more frequent. More frequent the changing situation, the more frequent the communication. And with each communication, the new context has to be shared with customers. And that's really right now one of the best things you can do is let people know what has changed, where are we now, where do you think it's going to go, what does it mean for them right now. So that's very important. The next thing to do is make sure that you're giving accurate information. I mean, whether you have to deliver really good information or not so good information, what you want to do is make sure that it is accurate so that over the time period, particularly in this uncertain time, it makes sense and people have confidence in the communications that you're giving. In turbulent times like this, really think about how do you want to be remembered when people look back on a time like this and think about what you said, what you did, again, the words and actions that impacted them during a time of difficulty and high uncertainty. I kind of think about the challenge really as, we have to keep customers away to keep them safe, but right now the challenge is to hold them very close as far as communications, services, the experiences you're giving them. So now is the time for servant leadership. And servant leadership really is I think about it as being on a continuum. Think about a horizontal line, if you will, and on the left, we've got serve me leaders. These are leaders that in their leadership position, they mainly serve themselves. And then on the far right are serve you leaders. And those are leaders that want to serve customers, family members, employees the best they can. And that includes the people they work with, people who work for them. And so really on this continuum of serve me leader and a serve you leader, think about where you are, and then think also about where you want to be in this uncertain time, how you can best serve your customers, certainly, and that will spill over certainly to friends and family, I hope. But anyway, it's a kind of style, servant leader, and during a time of uncertainty right now, your customers could really benefit from you being a servant leader, both directly and indirectly, on the internet and off the internet. And there's never been a better time really to map out the customer interactions that people have with your company. And this really means putting an illustration together that really shows very carefully how people interact with your company on the internet and off the internet. And right now the thing to do is do your internal view if you've never done this before, and then check in with some customers to make sure that it is accurate. Right now you probably want to get this done fairly quickly, so I'm not suggesting you make a huge research project or study out of it, but you want to make sure that it is correct enough so that when you make decisions about changing the interactions to adjust to this turbulent time, you're making good decisions. And so what you're going to see is and it can be simply drawn out by hand or flowed out with flow charting software, just something where everybody can see what the interactions are on the internet and off the internet of your customers. And the interactions start when person will discover your company, and again, that's on and off the internet, and then all the interactions until hopefully they would advocate for it. And in this case, what you want to do is take a careful look at what the interactions are, and then look at the interactions that are not on the internet and see which interactions can be converted to on internet. And then for people who have interactions that are physical interactions or non-internet interactions and they can't be converted, look very carefully at those interactions. How many of them can you eliminate, and what can be changed? In particular right now, what can be changed to be compatible with the CDC recommendations and so forth for safety. And then think about a few other dynamics too, about how you want to inform customers, because these changes may shock people, and what you want to do is avoid customer experience shock. And so this means that the changes you make for interacting, you need to inform your customers, and in some situations you actually will now play the role of instructor, instructing them on how to interact with your company in this time. So make sure by all costs you want to avoid experience shock. People are going through enough challenges right now, so start thinking about these changes to those interactions on and off the internet, and then how you will inform and instruct your customers. So again, I can't stress that enough. Then on the same subject of adjusting the customer interactions during this time, have a really good look at each interaction. Now, each interaction is made up of many experiences people have, and it's very important that you understand how these experiences within each interaction are impacted. Certainly, if you're making a new interaction to adjust to the times, you want to look at this. So I call it the CX4, the Customer Experience 4. And what this means is when people have interactions with your company, and again, this is on and off the internet, this is the minimum set you'd really need to know. And so there's emotional range. People, when they have an interaction, they go through an emotional range. And then also, people are very quick to process things. And so when we're having interactions, suddenly we're realizing, okay, is this worth it? So the value is another part of the CX4, the Customer Experience 4. And another aspect of the CX4 is do for or do to. People are very quick to evaluate, what is this interaction doing for me? What is this interaction doing to me? And I've seen hundreds of projects regarding the improvement and innovation of customer experiences, and I can tell you with full confidence that with do for and do to, there is no middles. Customers generally will say that an interaction is doing something for them or doing something to them. And the last one of the CX4 is time. How is the company using a customer's time? Is the time used very well or not very well? And when I talk to customers or I observe them and listen to them, I always ask them to let me know whether you think the company is using your time well or not so well. Why? Because I really need to understand what their thoughts are about how a company could use their time better. So that's the Customer Experience 4, emotional range, the value, do for and do to, and time spent. And for people, let's say in the healthcare industry, you would have a Customer Experience 5 regarding the physical disposition of a patient. For patient experience, it could be pain and no pain, could be the level of healing since a particular procedure. But my main point is have a minimum set that allows you to make effective customer experience intelligent decisions, so that when you actually change those interactions, they're very effective. Remember too, that customers right now, during an uncertain time, there's really two general reactions. One reaction is that some people block out what's going on because they kind of protect themselves that way. Others, and most of us, actually put on what I call our emotional recorders. What that means is that people are really going to remember what's happening during this time and what went on. And so they're extra sensitive to particularly two things: very good things that happen to them and not so good things that happen to them. So put that in the context of as you're adjusting customer experience interactions during this time. You want to make sure to be on the good side of that, because quite frankly, you really want people to look back on this time and think about, well, okay, they feel very good and emotionally good about you, as well as the value of the interactions and the rest of the parts to the CX4. Now let's think about the internet. A lot of people have a lot of choices of how to communicate on the internet, and particularly when you think about a phone, for instance, smartphone. There's many options to communicate, and right now is probably been there's really never been a better time to know what your customers' communication preferences are. Usually what happens is people have 4 or 5 communication ways or selections they've made from all the digital media and the applications and so forth. 4 or 5 of those people choose, and it accounts mainly for probably 80 to 90% of their communications. And I like to abbreviate this once I found out about, this customer prefers these particular mediums, and I abbreviate that. And for instance, I'm a ESTV. I communicate with email mainly, social media, particularly LinkedIn, texting, and then slow fourth is voice. And what I've seen certainly over the last few years is voice seems to be lagging the popularity of which digital media people engage. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because this will allow you to communicate and engage with people better. The other thing is that if typical, let's say, customers or people that are a lot alike, like in a persona, this will really allow you to streamline your communications quicker and so forth. Now there's another aspect to the changing times, our turbulent time right now, which is sometimes you have to add a new media choice, like let's say a video application. Very popular one right now is Zoom, and for good reason. And so this might not be regularly used by your customers, and so one thing you need to think about is, if you are going to have Zoom be the way that you communicate with customers, the way you interact with customers, now you've got to instruct. You've got to maybe be in the training role, or at least give them the tools to learn about how to use that. And so, maybe instruction and training isn't in your regular role, but maybe right now it should be. So that's something to consider, because not everybody is as proficient as everybody else. People vary quite differently in how tech savvy they are, and also how much time they have to put into learning different applications and so forth. So again, think about that. If you're going to add a new way to communicate digitally, you want to be the mentor, the instructor, the trainer on that, so that the customer doesn't have that experience shock that I mentioned a little while ago. So more on the digital engagement front is search engine optimization or search engine marketing, SEO or SEM. The main thing is making sure that you're easily found by the right kinds of people who would be customers. And of course, that probably doesn't tell you anything new, but typically small businesses and medium-sized businesses use Google's keyword planner, which is a very good thing. That tells you which words and terms are already in the search engines, and it gives you an idea of a search's frequency per month, let's say, whether it's for a country, or let's say the United States, or a county, and so forth. Then the other option that small and medium-sized businesses frequently use is an SEO plugin. Many of the SEO plugins are really good, but there is a way you can actually bring this to a higher level of performance, particularly during a time of uncertainty, and that is to find out from existing customers and people who you would want as future customers what are they putting in that search box to find companies like yours? And you can do this either by asking them or watching them do a search. There's other methods for doing this because quite frequently what they may be putting in isn't already what shows up in the Google Keyword Planner, and also the plugins themselves, while many of them are very good, they don't know your business and your customers the way you do. So I'm saying definitely use the Google Keyword Planner, but also continue to use the plugins. But sometimes you have to override the plugin and really kind of season it and optimize what the plugin is doing with what you learn from customers and what they're putting in the box. And also sometimes there are certain words or whole phrases considered to be keywords that are fairly new. And again, with the changes, you want to make sure that you are accessing people who are making those changes first, and then using that to kind of tune up what Google Keyword Search Planner is telling you what the plugin concludes, and think about kind of a triangulation between the Google Keyword Planner, an SEO plugin, and what you've learned from customers or would-be customers about what they're putting in that box right now to look for products, services, and people like yours, people that you're wanting to engage with them. So next is a concept that I just think about. I call it ungouging because we see so many people getting gouged right now, and it's very unfortunate. And I think customer experience leaders need to think about, well, what kind of list of products and services would come under my ungouging list? I really want to help people inside my business model, outside my business model. Maybe my business model needs to change. For instance, Twin City Die Castings in Minneapolis, they normally make many kinds of castings, metal parts and stuff. They're dedicating most of their production right now to small pistons that go into ventilators. Wichita Brewery, along with many other breweries across the country, is either adding to their distillation, the making of hand sanitizer, and other products that are medically needed right now. So those are kind of direct conversions. And then think about relieving your customers. How can you relieve them? And this would be inside your business model, temporarily lower price, different terms of contracts. It may be that you might have to devise some new technology that is more efficient. So think about that inside your business model. But the other thing to think about is outside of your normal business model is, what are people doing right now? What kinds of conditions are they in, whether it's for their home or their business, and what can you do for them there? And I'll mention one of the things that's in demand, pretty high demand right now, in just a minute. And again, be simple with your communications as far as the laying it out, the timing of it, the frequency. Be genuine, and don't forget to ask people, how are they doing? Not how are they doing as far as just buying from you. It's how are they doing overall, because it's very important to understand their overall situation. Right now we have people in situations that we've never seen before, as far as it rolls, working at home, children are at home, we have a lot of people who can't work, and so what you want to do from customers is really find out, okay, what is their situation, and then start thinking about how you could help. Going inside the company, think about this. I use a Boston Consulting Group matrix, a modified version of it, and this is on the subject of optimizing your cost to serve. And so this would be the cost of customer service, but also the cost of giving customers a particular customer experience. And so with the Boston Computer Group, there's 4 quads: high profit customers, low cost. Then there's high profit, high cost, and low profit, low cost customers, and then kind of the lagging area, which would be low profit, high cost customers. but it's important that you have a particular way that you know what the return on investment is from a customer, but what's the cost to serve them with a particular customer experience, and where would they go in one of these categories. Because once you have that information, the qualitative and the quantitative, what you can do then is start to make decisions about which customers do you leave with which service and experiences, and which customers can you change how you're serving them, what kind of experience they're having, and it's really kind of adjusting your portfolio of customers so that the customer is still getting a great customer experience. Could be temporary for this time, could be long term, and at the same time you're watching your costs to serve, because obviously the goal here is to survive, and hopefully you can thrive. But again, it's looking carefully at the profitability from a customer, the cost to serve and give them a particular customer experience, and what are the possibilities for changing those experiences to keep the customer experience very acceptable and hopefully delightful for the customer, but at the same time you're protecting the company and really making an adjustment that hopefully can be changed later on. So it's just, again, it could be temporary, or it could be something that you keep for longer term beyond this particular emergency time period. Customer experience intelligence, so I kind of abbreviated CXI, and CXI has never been more important than during a time like this. So think about not just the data you have, the sales data, but from a customer standpoint, what kind of information do you have about the kinds of experiences they're having with those interactions, and should they be adjusted right now? Should you leave them alone? And think about how you really get this information. Some companies collect the data. Some companies do interviews. They'll do observation, ethnography. One thing that can be very useful right now is quick checks with customers. Just checking in really quickly on the communication medium of their choice, if that's possible, and really find out how they're doing, and then start to think about, okay, what do I know about these customers? What have I learned about them since this coronavirus has come on? And from an intel standpoint, what does that mean for how I can adjust those customer interactions? But also, what does that mean for giving me ideas about how I can take care of that customer, both directly in my role, my traditional role, but also indirectly. Okay, is there a more progressive role for me right now to help my people out, my customers? One thing that I found that is really helpful is understanding customers' best and worst experiences. So I really like to find out what people's top 3 customer experiences are online and why. Definitely the why part's really important. And then what are their top 3 least favorite customer experiences online. And then I also like to find out the same about their non-internet experiences. What are your top 3 and why? What are your least favorite customer experiences and why? And it's a tremendous learning, almost cheating, because you get to really understand the benchmarks that people have in their mind and the why part, and then you can make adjustments from there. And you can go probably in more depth at another time, but right now just getting a quick view of that from enough customers that will give you an idea of adjustments that you can make for many more, a directionally correct one, that view, I should say, that would be really good. So one other thing too is during a time of uncertainty is to be measuring what matters to customers. Not enough companies do this, in my opinion. I mean, companies measure ROI and retention and market share and inventory position and many others. I'm sure that you have your set of KPIs, key performance indicators for the company. Many companies use stock industry KPIs, but start thinking about what matters to customers. What am I really measuring what matters to customers. And what I've found is that when I've asked companies, I've actually asked them to take a KPI challenge, and I've said, okay, find out what percentage of your metrics customers really care about, and it rarely rises above 20%. But the point is that in times of turbulence like now, those things that people care about could change very much, and it certainly could impact your company and your people and your products, your service, everything. And so if you've already got great measures that customers care about, you already know that those are changing very quickly during this time. If you aren't measuring what people care about, or you don't know, it's probably time to find out, okay, what measures do I have to go out and create and understand, and then make the modifications as the times change, as things change during this time. One example I'll share right now with you is that I was at a conference and I was speaking, and there was a suit manufacturer, and they said, well, we don't need that. We already measure what our customers care about. We measure retention, we measure adoption, we have a low return rate, and we have a high customer sat. And so I said, okay, what do you think could be added to that? I said, because I don't think that those are very strong, except for the customer satisfaction. Gave them 15 minutes to come up with something, and they had a hard time. And I said, okay, well, think about if I were to take one of your suits or your blazer and I fold it up nice and neat, and I put it in my suitcase, and I take a 6-hour plane ride, and then I get to the hotel, and I'm going to stay in the hotel, and I hang the suit up, and I've got a presentation in the morning. What do you think the metric is that is most important that you should be measuring for me? And that metric is going to be time to wrinkle free. Because what I'm thinking when I take it out of the suitcase is, man, it's been in that suitcase for a long time. I'm going to hang it up, and I hope that it is wrinkle free so that I look presentable. You certainly don't want to look like you were in a kind of a paper crunched up suit. And so we proceeded to have a really good discussion after that, because I think they got the idea from a customer viewpoint what would be measures that customers would care about. So again, think about that. Maybe you're already doing it, and again, if you are, you already know then that could change very quickly during the kind of time we're going through. Then examine your do-fors. Do-fors are what companies do for people that they really value. There's no question about it. High willingness to pay, and the do-fors generally create a lot of referrals, a lot of customer advocacy. Now it's going to be, what could those do-fors be to intersect with customers' new needs, their special needs? It could be in your business role, or it could be in a personal role, but now would probably be the time to step up. As I say, customer experience leadership, if not now, when? And so probably the biggest thing that's in demand right now is that there's so many people working from home, and people have been asking, help me work from home, my kids are here too, do you have any advice or suggestions? That's kind of a hot button right now. It's new to a lot of people. It's creating a lot of stress and strain at home. So even if that isn't part of your mainstream business, if you've got ideas on how you could do it or how other people could do it, it would be a really good time to share that. That would be a huge do for people. So anyway, that's kind of the comments I've got right now on customer experience leadership in turbulent times. As part of this summit, feel free to call me and schedule before the end of the year a free 45-minute session. It'll be up to you whether you want a casual chat, a presentation, a training session, or open Q&A, or it could be some comments, confidentially of course, on something that you're looking at from a challenge or an opportunity. But get a hold of me at jbean@delmarresearch.com. Call or text me at 858-334-9266, or go on my website at delmarresearch.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. And take care. I think the best thing to remember is that what you want to do is stay well for sure and lead on with customer experience leadership in turbulent times? If not now, when?